Are you ready to see my new 2020 racing helmet? I got it here and it's awesome. Some of you probably already saw it if you are following me on Twitch during my live streams. I spoiled it. I don't know if you probably know that I am also streaming on Twitch every day, every evening. And considering that I cannot do real races, I'm doing the virtual races on Twitch, especially on iRacing. So the commentary is gonna be in Italian, but if you write on chat in English, I will answer to you in English. And it's pretty cool. So if you wanna follow me on Twitch, I'll link it below. Now, in the first part of the video, I will show you the graphic of the helmet, while in the second part, I will show you all the technology that stands behind a MotoGP racing helmet. Because this helmet is the exact same that they use in MotoGP. Now, finally, I am ready to show you my new 2020 racing helmet. This is awesome. Exactly like last year, this helmet was designed by Nicolas Casadei, a friend of mine, who owns the CSD Racing Design. And this is the second season I'm working with him, and I can truly say his works are amazing. Every time he showed me a new design, I always had nothing to say. It already was perfect from the beginning. And again this year, same exact story. Once he sent me the render of the helmet, I just said, it's cool, do it. I wouldn't know how to do it better. The only thing that I suggested is, a few months ago I met a girl, which is my friend now. She's a singer, and I saw this wonderful tattoo on her leg, and I was amazed by the graphic with the hexagons. So I said to Nicolas, well, why don't we put something like that on the helmet? Why don't we try to put somewhere some hexagons? And he said, don't worry, I'll think about it. So there we are. This is why you see these hexagons here. And it's pretty cool because they are not that visible, but they are there. And what's cool, comparing to the other season, as you can see, the helmet is not shiny, but it's opaque, and I really like it. But here it's kinda hybrid, because you have the carbon, which is opaque, and it's the true carbon for the helmet. You have the paint, which is opaque, and you have the hexagons, which are shiny. Look at the shadow effects here. Look at the shadows on the helmet. Here, in the air intake, look at how the air intake is projecting the shadow on the graphic. And look at how the logo here is projecting the shadow on the graphic. This is truly amazing. And Nicolas does graphic designs and helmets for everybody. So if you want to contact him and ask him for a quote, you can write him on Instagram or via email. I wrote everything below, so you can contact him. And he will provide you a quote. Obviously, you will have to send him your helmet because he doesn't send helmets. And obviously, he works in Italy. So if you're in Australia, it's gonna be difficult. But if you live in Europe, the shipments are not that expensive, so you can do it. So now that we've seen the graphics, I'm gonna show you all the technology inside and outside a MotoGP helmet like this one. Last year I was using the AGV Pista GPRR. This one is the AGV Pista GPRR, which is the evolution. And one pretty cool thing is that this helmet has been designed starting from the rider's head. The first prototypes has been designed around the Valentino Rossi's head. And that's amazing if you think about it. Now, one of the first things that I want to show you is that if you look from the side, a rider wearing a Dainese suit and an AGV helmet, you can see how the helmet with the spoiler connects perfectly to the hump of the suit. And this is mainly because of the aerodynamic, which has been studied for a helmet to integrate with the suit. And this is a totally new approach, especially the spoiler that you can see here. The spoiler, that is very, very lightweight, has been designed to automatically detach in case of bad crash. And if you've been following me since 2018, you probably remember that in my second race I crashed and a motorbike hit me in the head, and the first thing that I lost was the spoiler. That's because it was meant to automatically detach in case of bad crash. Now, Why did I say MotoGP helmet? Because this model, which is the AGV Pista GPRR, is the exact model that they use in Superbike and MotoGP. And you can buy it in the stores. And that's pretty cool because sometimes we think that the pro riders, the World Championship riders are using special material. And this is not true because they are using the exact same material that we can buy. Obviously, it is certified by the FIM, and being certified by the FIM means it's very safe because they are very strict. So it's been certified for direct impacts, for rotational impacts, and also for the impacts in the median points. It's also been certified for the low energy impacts and for the penetration. Now, let's look in detail how it's made. Let's start from the outside. The first important thing to notice is the aerodynamic. You can see it by just looking at it. Look at how complex the design is. It seems like a spaceship. It looks like a jet fighter. It looks like a supercar. And to see it, look at this comparison between a 1994 AGV helmet from Max Biaggi and the nowadays helmet. Look at the differences in the design and the aerodynamics. It's been designed not only to reduce the drag, and you know, the drag is the resistance that you oppose to the air. So the higher the drag, the harder it is to resist to the air, okay? So they didn't just reduce the drag, but they also reduced the buffeting. The buffeting are all those little movements that happens because of the turbulences. So the higher the buffeting, the harder it is to keep the head still. And the more the head moves, the more stressing it is, the harder it is to stay focused, which is so important. And I felt this difference when I went to test the GP3. I did it 2 years ago. If you didn't see the video, I linked it below. It's in my Italian channel, but with English captions. During that day, considering that I didn't have a car helmet, I was using the motorbike helmet, the GPR. But I have put a GoPro on the helmet, which was disturbing the aerodynamic. And what I felt is that on the straight, my head kept doing this. And after just 5 laps, I was confused. I was stressed, I was tired. While when I used to ride the motorbike with that helmet without the camera on it, the head was super still. So that allowed me to understand how the aerodynamic is important. And just to give you some data, at 160 kilometers an hour, which is the average speed during a race, it weighs nothing. Another thing that might seem trivial, but which is not because they invested so much in it, is the visor. First of all, they invested a lot of research on the rotation mechanism. As you can see, it's very quick to remove the visor, and in a matter of seconds, you can change the visor without the need of screwdrivers or other tools. You just need your hands. Moreover, this mechanism has been designed to be as small as possible. And this is due to 2 reasons. First of all, the smaller the mechanism, the less you go in depth, the more space you give to the EPS, which is the protective foam that is inside. And the second reason is that the smaller the mechanism, the more room you leave to the visor, the more you can see on the sides. Indeed, the FOV, which is the field of view of this helmet, is huge. Look at how big the visor is. And this is fundamental because when you're riding and you have such a big field of view, if you're looking forward and a motorbike appears on your side, you don't even need to turn your head because it immediately appears in your field of view. You see it just with the side of the eye. And if you want to look at it, you just look at your side and you see it. Also, look at how big the field of view is up and down. Look at how even if I keep moving my head, I can still see the camera. And look at my hair. Guys, it's been 40 days I'm stuck at home because of this quarantine and I cannot even cut my hair. It's crazy. Anyway, another fundamental thing is that the visor is not just meant to protect you from the air, but it's also meant to protect you from the falls and from the little stones. That's why the visor is very thick. I'm talking about 5 millimeters, and that's a lot. And by doing such a big visor, there might be one problem, which is the distortion. The bigger and the thicker the visor, the easier it is for it to distort. And that might be dangerous because if you have a bike here, but you see it there, that might be bad. So this visor has been designed not to distort. In fact, it is class 1. Also, the lock mechanism has two levels of locking. You have the first one, and then if you push it more, you have a second lock. And this is done to prevent the visor from opening in case of crash, and to prevent the visor from ripping off in case of crash. Now, if you look closer to the outside of the helmet, you can see that there are many air intakes here. 3 in the front, 2 in the rear, and 2 down here in the front. All these intakes are meant to build an airflow inside the helmet to keep the head cool and to prevent the visor from fogging. In fact, here you have a switch that you can open and close to open or close these intakes. And this is very important because I don't know if you saw the first race of 2019. I had a problem in the qualifying session because all the visor got fogged. And I was struggling with it, because I couldn't see anything. And then when I come back to the pit lane, I realized that I left this closed. At that point, as soon as I opened it and I went back on track, no more fog. So remember, especially in rain situations, open this to remove the fog. These intakes can also be closed by using some small pieces of rubber that are included with the helmet to avoid that the water goes inside during wet races. In the box, you can also find the hydration system, which you can see it goes here, then arrives here in the front and goes in the hull of the suit. And this allows you to drink during the race. And once again, this makes you understand how integrated they are, the AGV helmets and the Dainese suits. Because I don't know if you know it, but AGV is owned by Dainese, and the R&D departments of the helmets and suits work together. And this is why the helmets and the racing suits are so connected. Now, let's see how it's made in the inside. Now, a helmet like this one is made of 3 layers. We have the external layer, which in this model in particular is made of carbon fiber. We have the EPS, which looks like polystyrene. And we have this removable and regulable cuff that I will now show you what it is for. If we talk about the carbon, the only purpose of the carbon is to absorb and distribute the impacts. And also it must be as light as possible. So this is why it's 100% carbon fiber. And the lightness is not just because of comfort, but it's also because of safety. And every component, like helmet, gloves and boots, must be as light as possible. This is because of the kinetic energy. Now, let's take for example this hammer, okay? We can think of it as our arm. This is the arm, this is the hand. In case of a hammer, the head is very heavy. And look at what happens. With just a small movement, we deliver a very high kinetic energy. This is because if you have a lever like this, the heavier the tip of the lever, the harder the impact. And this is the same for our arm. The heavier the glove, the harder the impact when we fall. And that's the same for the boots and for the head. And this is why the helmet must be as light as possible. If we talk about the EPS, which is inside, is more protective than requested. This is because AGV wanted to make this helmet more safe than necessary. And then we have the cuff. And what's particular about this cuff is that you can regulate it. You can see, you can make it tighter or wider in order to adjust it to your head. And they made it adjustable because this way you can adjust the setup of the helmet to your head. And this is crazy because even a rigid thing like a helmet, which might not seem adjustable, now with this cuff is adjustable. And another pretty cool thing is that you can easily remove the inside of the helmet so that you can wash them and always have a clean and good smelling helmet. One very important thing to notice is that look at what happens when I press the EPS. It's not like rubber that returns back to this position, but instead it remains compressed. This is because the purpose of the EPS is not to absorb the energy and give it back, but it's to just absorb the energy. So after one crash where we hit the head, we always must take the helmet and take it to the store to check it. Because we might not see it, but the carbon might be broken or the EPS might be compressed. So even if it looks fine from the outside, it might be broken. And this is not just for the helmet, it is for every protection. Every time you crash, every time you fall, bring it to be controlled. Because remember that safety is always the most important thing. I don't know if you've seen the high side that I had with the motard last year. I didn't break anything, and I thought all my gears were fine, but when I went back home and I looked at the back protector, I saw that the honeycomb fabric was compressed, and that back protector was broken. Even if from the outside it looked fine. If that day I didn't break my back, it's because the back protector broke instead of my back. Last but not least, I always suggest you to use the earplugs, because this helmet has been designed for racing. So it has not been designed for long trips comfort, but it's been designed for performance. So it's normal that this kind of helmet might be more noisy than the touring helmets. This is why when you buy them, inside the box, you find a set of earplugs. So my suggestion is to get used to use the earplugs, because in long racing session you will find them very, very useful. So I hope you like the new design for 2020. I hope you like this video and find it useful, and let me know below in the comments what you think. Once again, thanks for watching, and I really can't wait to go back on track and use my wonderful 2020 AGV helmet. Bye bye!